If you rely on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, something subtle but important is happening right now, and it's catching a lot of seniors off guard. Over the past few days, I've been seeing a wave of comments and messages from people just like you. The check didn't stop, the money wasn't taken away, but something feels different. Some of you are saying your Social Security deposit showed up later than usual. Others saw it marked as pending longer. Some could see the money in their account but couldn't access all of it right away. And a few are asking the same worried question. Did Social Security change something? Here's the key thing I want you to hear right at the start. This is not a Social Security cut. This is not a benefit reduction. And this is not SSA taking money back. What's happening is quieter than that. And because it's quiet, it's causing confusion. What's changing is how banks are handling Social Security deposits after the money is sent. That difference matters more than most people realize, especially if you're on a fixed income and every dollar has a job the moment it arrives. Rent, utilities, groceries, prescriptions. There's no wiggle room when timing shifts, even by one day. If you want clear, calm explanations of changes like this without panic or rumors, take a second and subscribe to the channel. I focus on what's real, what's changing, and what you actually need to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Now let's break this down in plain language. Social Security is still sending payments on schedule. The SSA payment calendar has not changed. Wednesday payment groups are still Wednesday. SSI payments are still scheduled as announced. COLA adjustments, benefit amounts, and eligibility rules are all the same. But once Social Security releases the money, it enters the banking system. That's where the experience can suddenly feel different, even though the payment itself is right on time. Think of it like this. Social Security hands the envelope to the mail carrier, but your bank decides when you can open it. Over the last several months, many banks have quietly updated their internal policies. These aren't laws passed by Congress. These aren't SSA rules. These are bank-level decisions tied to fraud prevention, identity verification, and processing controls. And they affect government deposits more than most people expected. That's why two neighbors in the same city can have very different experiences. One person sees their deposit early in the morning, like always. Another sees it later in the day. Someone else sees it pending overnight. Same Social Security payment, different bank handling. And here's why this feels so alarming for seniors and disability recipients. When you live paycheck to paycheck, timing is everything. A delay of even 12 hours can cause overdrafts, missed payments, or stress that you simply don't need. I've heard from retirees who scheduled their rent to pull automatically the same morning their Social Security usually hits. This time, the deposit showed up, but the available balance didn't update in time. The rent pulled first, overdraft fee, panic, all because of a timing issue that wasn't explained. I've also heard from SSI recipients who rely on early deposit features from their bank. They were used to seeing their money 1 or 2 days early. This month, the deposit still arrived, just not early. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It means early access is a bank feature, not a guarantee. And this is where a lot of misinformation starts spreading. No, Social Security is not holding your money. No, benefits are not being reviewed or frozen. No, this is not a clawback or audit. And no, you did not do anything wrong just because a deposit took longer to clear. What's happening is a growing gap between when SSA sends the money and when banks release full access to it. Banks are tightening their review windows. Some are adding extra screening for government deposits. Others are flagging accounts that recently changed addresses, added a joint holder, or had unusual activity, even if it was harmless. For example, if you recently updated your direct deposit information, changed banks, or added overdraft protection, your account might receive extra scrutiny. The money still arrives. It just doesn't always become available instantly. And here's something most people don't realize. Posted does not always mean available. Those are two different things. You might see the deposit listed in your account, but the bank can still place a temporary hold before you can withdraw or transfer it. This is one of the most common points of confusion I'm hearing about, and it deserves more explanation because understanding this distinction can save you enormous anxiety. When a deposit shows as posted, it means the bank has acknowledged receiving the transaction. The money has arrived at the institution. The record is there. But available means you can actually use that money, withdraw it, transfer it, Spend it with your debit card or have it count toward automatic payments. There can be a gap of several hours or even a full business day between these two stages. This is why calling Social Security right away often leads nowhere. SSA already sent the money. From their perspective, the payment is complete. The delay is happening after that, inside the bank. The Social Security Administration can confirm that they released your payment on schedule, but they have no control over when your specific bank makes those funds available to you. The worst thing you can do right now is panic and start moving accounts, opening new banks, or transferring funds quickly. That can actually trigger more delays, not fewer. What you need first is clarity. You need to understand what's happening, why it's happening, and how to protect yourself from short-term disruptions without assuming the worst. And there's another reason this matters more than just this month's deposit. These banking policy changes could affect future payments too. COLA increases, back payments, retroactive SSDI awards, even one-time relief payments, if they happen, could be subject to the same processing rules. That's why understanding this now puts you ahead of the curve and helps you plan your finances more effectively in the months to come. Now let's talk about what actually changed at banks, because this is where most of the confusion starts and where rumors usually take over if no one explains it clearly. When people hear the phrase new bank policies, it sounds vague and scary. It makes it feel like something official happened overnight, like a law was passed or a government mandate came down. But in reality, this wasn't one big announcement or a single rule that every bank adopted at the same time. What happened was more gradual, more distributed across different institutions, and that's why so many people were caught off guard. Banks across the country have been updating how they process electronic deposits, especially government payments that move through the ACH system. That includes Social Security, SSI, SSDI, VA benefits, and other federal payments. These updates are mostly tied to fraud prevention and compliance rules, not to Social Security itself. The changes came from the banking industry's response to increased fraud attempts, identity theft, and federal guidance on financial security. Here's the simple version of how your deposit normally works. Social Security sends your payment electronically on the scheduled date. That part hasn't changed at all. Once it leaves the Treasury Department, it enters the ACH system. That's the electronic highway banks use to move money back and forth between institutions. From there, your bank receives notice of the deposit and decides when to make it available to you. That last step is where banks have more control than most people realize, and it's also where the recent changes have had the most impact. Some banks used to release government deposits almost immediately, sometimes even before the official payment date. Others even advertised early access as a competitive feature, letting customers see their Social Security deposits 1 or 2 days before the scheduled date. But early access was always a bank perk, not a promise from Social Security. And many banks are now being more cautious about how and when they release funds, especially government payments. One major change is longer review windows. Banks are taking more time to confirm the deposit details before making the money fully available. This doesn't mean they think you did something wrong. It means their systems are scanning for patterns that don't match their updated risk models. They're looking for unusual account activity, mismatched names, recent changes to account details, or deposits that don't fit the expected pattern. Another change is stricter identity and account verification. If anything about your account has changed recently, your address, your phone number, a joint account holder, even how often you log in or what device you use, the system may flag the deposit for a short review. Again, the money is there. It's in the bank's possession. It's just not released instantly to your available balance while the verification completes. Some banks have also adjusted their hold thresholds. In the past, a regular monthly Social Security deposit might pass through automatically because it looked familiar to the system. The bank's software recognized the pattern, same amount, same source, same account, same date every month. Now, even familiar deposits are sometimes reviewed, especially if the amount changed due to a COLA adjustment, a recalculation, or an additional payment. Let me give you some realistic examples that match what people are actually reporting. Imagine a retiree who normally receives their Social Security deposit early Wednesday morning, usually around 3 a.m., when the bank processes overnight transactions. This month, the deposit shows up Wednesday afternoon instead, maybe around 2 out of p.m. or 3 to p.m. Nothing was missed, nothing was reduced. The payment went out on time from Social Security's end. But that timing shift alone can throw off automatic bill payments, especially if rent, utilities, or insurance premiums are scheduled to pull from the account on the same day. Another example involves SSDI back payments. These are often larger amounts, sometimes thousands of dollars, representing months of retroactive benefits after an approval. When a bank sees a deposit that's much higher than your usual monthly amount, say your regular benefit is $200, but suddenly there's a $9,000 deposit, their system may automatically pause it for review. That doesn't mean the money is in danger or that you won't receive it. It means the bank wants to verify the source and the account details before releasing such a large amount. From their perspective, it's a fraud prevention measure. From your perspective, it's stressful and confusing, especially if no one explains what's happening. Online-only banks and prepaid card accounts are another area where people are seeing noticeable differences. These institutions often rely heavily on automated systems without much human oversight for routine transactions. When those systems are updated with new fraud detection algorithms or security protocols, changes can feel sudden and unexplained. A deposit that used to clear at 3 a.m. might now clear at noon or even later in the afternoon. That's not Social Security changing when they send the money. That's the bank's internal processing clock and security controls shifting. And here's something important that doesn't get said enough. Not all banks updated their systems at the same time, and not all of them updated them the same way. One major national bank might have rolled out changes in January. A regional credit union might have updated in March. A smaller community bank might still be using older processing methods. That's why your experience may be completely different from someone else's, even if you both receive the same type of benefit on the same day. This is also why calling Social Security often leads to frustration. SSA can see that your payment was sent. From their side, the transaction is complete. They released the funds on the correct date according to the payment schedule. The delay, if there is one, happens after that point, inside the banking system. That's why the bank is usually the right place to ask questions, but only after you understand what to ask and what information they can actually provide. Another thing that's confusing people is the difference between deposit date and availability date. Your account may show the deposit on one date, say Wednesday the 3rd, but the funds might not be fully available until later that day or even the next business day. This is especially common when a payment lands near a weekend or holiday. If your Social Security payment is scheduled for a Friday, but the bank's verification process takes a few extra hours, you might not see full availability until Saturday morning or even Monday, depending on how the bank handles weekend processing. This creates a documentation problem, too. When you look at your account statement, it might say the deposit was made on the 3rd, but you couldn't access the money until the 4th. That discrepancy can be confusing when you're trying to track your budget or explain to a landlord or utility company why a payment was late. And let's clear up one more rumor that's been circulating widely, especially on social media. There is no new federal rule that allows banks to take your Social Security money or delay it indefinitely. Federal protections for Social Security benefits are still in place. Banks cannot seize your benefits for most types of debts, things like credit card debt, medical bills, or personal loans. Those protections haven't changed, and banks cannot simply keep your money without a legitimate reason and proper legal process. What they can do is apply temporary holds for verification purposes. And while that's frustrating, especially when you're counting on that money immediately, it's usually short term. For most people experiencing this issue, the delay is measured in hours, not days or weeks. The hold might last 6 hours, 12 hours, maybe until the next business day, but it's not permanent, and it's not a seizure of your funds. Now that you understand what changed at banks and why this is happening, the next important question is who is most affected and what you should be watching for so a small delay doesn't turn into a bigger financial problem. Not everyone will notice a difference. Some people will see their deposits arrive exactly as they always have, with no changes to timing or availability. But certain groups are more likely to experience timing issues or temporary holds, especially right now as banks continue refining their systems. First, SSI recipients, SSI payments, are often the most time-sensitive because they usually arrive right at the start of the month, typically on the 1st, unless that falls on a weekend or holiday. Many SSI recipients schedule rent, utilities, and other essential bills to come out immediately after that payment arrives because there's simply no buffer in the budget. When a bank delays availability, even briefly, it can create instant stress and potential financial consequences like late fees or service interruptions. SSI deposits are also more likely to be flagged if the account has any recent changes because the amounts are often smaller and more tightly monitored by banking systems. A typical SSI payment might be $900 or $1,000, which is smaller than many retirement benefits. Banks sometimes apply different risk thresholds to smaller recurring deposits, especially if there's been any recent account activity that looks unusual to an automated system. Next, SSDI recipients who receive back payments or benefit adjustments. These deposits can be much larger than a normal monthly benefit. When a bank sees a deposit that suddenly jumps from, for example, $1,400 to $8,000 or $12,000, the system often pauses it automatically. That pause is not a rejection. It's not an indication that something is wrong with your claim. It's a security review. The problem is that no one explains that part clearly when it happens, so people naturally assume something has gone wrong with their benefits. With another group seeing more impact is seniors using online-only banks or prepaid debit cards. These accounts often rely entirely on automated processing with minimal human intervention. When fraud prevention rules tighten across the industry, the system doesn't know your personal story or your payment history. It only sees patterns and data points. A deposit that used to clear at midnight may now clear later in the morning or even the next business day. Again, same money, same source, just different timing based on new processing rules. Joint accounts can also trigger delays more frequently now. If you share an account with a spouse, caregiver, or adult child, and anything about that relationship or account structure recently changed, the bank may take extra time to verify the deposit. This happens more often than people realize, especially after life events that trigger account updates. A name change after marriage, a beneficiary change after a death, or a power of attorney addition when someone needs help managing finances. Even small things can matter under these new systems. Updating your address when you move, changing your phone number, logging in from a new device or computer, using a different browser. These are all completely normal actions that most people don't think twice about. But when combined with a large government deposit arriving shortly after, they sometimes prompt a short security review from the bank's automated systems. Now let's talk about what you should actually watch for, because this is where people either stay calm and handle things smoothly or panic unnecessarily and make decisions that create bigger problems. The first thing to check when your payment is due is whether the deposit is posted or just pending. Posted means the bank has received it and recorded it in your account. Pending means it's still processing, still moving through the system. Many people stop here and assume the worst, thinking their payment didn't arrive or something went wrong. But the next step is more important and tells you much more about the actual situation. Look at the available balance, not just the posted transaction. This is the number that matters for spending, withdrawals, and automatic payments. Posted does not always mean available. This distinction matters more now than ever before. You might see a transaction listed that says $1,500 Social Security direct deposit posted or 403. But when you look at your available balance, it might not reflect that full amount yet. That's the hold in action. If the money is posted but not available, it usually means the bank is completing its verification review. This is typically automated and resolves on its own within a few hours to a business day. The best thing you can do is wait until the end of the business day before taking any action. Most holds resolve automatically without you needing to do anything. If your deposit has not shown up at all by the end of the scheduled payment day, then it's reasonable to start asking questions. But timing matters here too. A deposit that usually arrives at 3 a.m. but shows up at 2 p.m. is still on time, according to the official payment schedule. It just feels late because your personal routine was disrupted. Social Security considers the payment on time as long as it arrives on the scheduled date, regardless of what time of day. Here's what you should not do right away, and this is important because these are the exact actions that often make the situation worse. Do not immediately change banks in a panic. Opening a new account, transferring your direct deposit, and moving your money around creates a whole new set of verification steps that will likely cause even more delays with future payments. Do not open multiple new accounts, hoping one of them will process faster. That looks suspicious to banking systems and can actually flag your accounts for additional review. Do not transfer funds rapidly between accounts, especially large amounts. Moving money back and forth between checking and savings or between different banks, especially right after a Social Security deposit, can trigger fraud alerts. And do not assume Social Security made a mistake before checking with your bank first. In the vast majority of these cases, SSA sent the payment correctly and on time. The issue is on the banking side. Instead, here's what you should do, step by step. If the deposit is posted but not available, wait until the end of the business day, check again that evening or the next morning. Many holds resolve automatically within 6 to 24 hours without any action needed from you. If it's still unavailable the next business day, then call your bank's customer service line and ask a specific question. Don't just ask, "Where's my money?" or "Why is this taking so long?" Instead, ask this: "I see a Social Security deposit posted to my account on date, but it's not showing in my available balance. Can you tell me if this deposit is under routine verification and when full access is expected?" That question gives the representative specific information to look up and shows that you understand the process. You're much more likely to get a helpful answer. Most of the time, they'll be able to tell you that the hold will lift by a specific time or date, and they might even be able to expedite it if you explain that you have bills due. If the deposit does not appear at all after the scheduled payment date has fully passed, meaning it's the next day and there's still no record of it in your account, not even as pending, then it makes sense to check with Social Security to confirm the payment was sent. Most of the time, SSA can confirm the release date quickly, and they can also verify that your direct deposit information on file is correct. Now, let's talk about budgeting, because this is where a little planning can prevent a lot of stress and financial consequences. If your bills are scheduled to pull automatically from your account on the same day your benefits usually arrive, consider moving those bills back by 1 or 2 days if possible. Even a small buffer can protect you from overdraft fees, late charges, and the stress of wondering whether everything will clear properly. Most utility companies, landlords, and service providers will work with you on payment dates, especially if you've been a reliable customer. A simple phone call explaining that you'd like to shift your payment date by a day or two can make a huge difference. Instead of having your rent pull on the 1st when your SSI deposit arrives, maybe have it pull on the 3rd. That gives the deposit time to fully clear and become available. Set up deposit alerts through your bank's app or text message system instead of just assuming availability. Alerts tell you when the money arrives, but they don't always mean it's ready to spend. Checking the available balance first before making purchases or scheduling payments can save you significant trouble. This is especially important if you're used to your deposits clearing early. Don't assume early access will continue. Plan based on the official payment date and treat early access as a nice bonus when it happens, not something you count on. If you receive SSI or SSDI and have been relying on early deposit features from your bank, it's important to understand that early access can change at any time. It's not guaranteed, even if it worked the same way for years. Banks offer it as a courtesy or competitive feature, but they can adjust or remove it based on their risk management policies. Building your budget around the official payment date, not the early access date, protects you from disruption. This is also a good time to make sure your account information with Social Security is up to date and accurate. Matching names, correct addresses, and current contact information reduce the chances of a deposit being flagged for verification. If you've moved, changed your name, or updated your phone number, make sure Social Security has that information. You can update most of this through your My Social Security account online or by calling or visiting a local office. Similarly, make sure your bank has your current information. If there's any mismatch between what Social Security has on file and what your bank has on file, like a slightly different spelling of your name or an old address still listed, that can trigger holds. Keeping everything consistent and current minimizes friction in the system. And here's the reassurance I want to leave you with before we move forward. For most people experiencing these issues, the delay is temporary. We're talking hours or maybe a day, not lost money or canceled benefits. The system is adjusting and banks are being cautious, sometimes overly cautious, but your benefits are still protected by federal law. This is about timing and access, not about losing what you're owed. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture, because once you understand where this is headed and why these changes are happening across the entire banking industry, a lot of the worry fades away. What you're seeing right now is part of a broader shift in how money moves in the banking system, particularly electronic payments. As more payments go digital and fraud becomes more sophisticated with better technology and more organized criminal networks, banks are tightening their controls. That affects government deposits just like any other large recurring payment. It's not about taking money away or making life harder for legitimate beneficiaries. It's about slowing access slightly while systems double-check the details to prevent theft and fraud. This means future payments may feel a little different too, and it's worth understanding what might trigger extra scrutiny going forward. COLA increases can trigger extra review because the deposit amount changes from what the system expects. If you've been receiving $1,400 every month for a year, and then suddenly it's $1,470 because of a cost of living adjustment, the bank's system might pause to verify that increase is legitimate. Retroactive SSDI payments often receive extra scrutiny because they're significantly larger than normal monthly benefits. If you've been in the application and appeals process for months or even years and then finally get approved, that back payment can be substantial. Banks see that as a higher risk transaction simply because of the size, even though it's completely legitimate. Even state-level relief programs or one-time federal payments, if they happen again in the future, like stimulus payments or emergency assistance, would likely move through the same banking security checks. So, understanding how this process works now prepares you for any future payments that might be different from your normal monthly benefit. What is not changing is just as important to remember, and I want to be absolutely clear about this because there's a lot of fear and misinformation circulating. Social Security payment schedules are still in place. The official calendar that determines when payments go out based on your birth date or benefit type has not changed. Eligibility rules are still the same. The requirements for who qualifies for Social Security, SSI, or SSDI haven't been altered by these banking changes. Your monthly benefit amount is not being reduced because of bank policies. The number on your award letter is still the number you're entitled to receive, and Social Security is not canceling or delaying payments on purpose. The agency is still processing and sending payments according to the established schedule. What's happening occurs after SSA has already done their part. The key takeaway is this. This is about timing and access, not loss. When you plan for that reality and adjust your expectations and your budget accordingly, you stay ahead of it instead of being constantly stressed and reactive. Giving yourself a small buffer between deposit days and bill payments, checking available balances before spending, asking the right questions if something looks off. These simple habits protect your peace of mind and your financial stability. You earned these benefits. They are part of your financial foundation, something you paid into through years of work or something you qualified for because of a disability or other life circumstance. Understanding how banks handle deposits today helps you protect that foundation tomorrow. It gives you the knowledge to navigate the system confidently instead of feeling confused and powerless. If you've noticed any changes in your deposit timing, I genuinely want to hear about it. Share your city or state in the comments and let others know what you're seeing. Are you experiencing longer holds? Are deposits arriving later in the day? Did early access stop for you? Your experiences help build a clearer picture of what's happening across the country, and they help other viewers realize they're not alone. If you have questions or concerns, post them in the comments as well. I read through them, and chances are someone else is experiencing the same thing and wondering the same thing you are. We're building a community here of people who support each other and share real information, not rumors or panic. The goal here isn't fear, it's clarity. And when you have clarity, you have control. You can make informed decisions. You can plan ahead. You can protect yourself from unnecessary financial stress. And you can help others by sharing what you've learned. That's what this channel is all about, giving you the tools and the knowledge you need to navigate these systems with confidence, dignity, and peace of mind. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.